Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today on our webinar on how to elevate your construction administration and project management. A couple quick reminders before we start. This webinar will be recorded and emailed out to you within a few days. It will also be available under our events page on the Microdesk website and on our YouTube channels. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. If you have any questions during our presentation, please type them into the questions box located near the bottom of the go-to panel for the end. A little bit about Microdesk. We are a leading AECO technology and consulting firm and Autodesk Platinum partner in the US. In 2022, we joined the Symmetry team that allows us to expand our reach globally throughout Europe. We have over 200 dedicated consulting experts that assist with design, construction, and operation firms with the goal of working smarter and more sustainably. To start off, I would like to present our speakers today, Ramona Moore and Nick Wolf, who will introduce themselves and kick off our agenda today.
Thanks, Amanda. Hey, it's Nicholas Wolf at Microdesk, and we have Ramona Moore.
Hello, everybody. It's Ramona.
All right, cool. So, a quick agenda here today. So, talking about Autodesk Construction Cloud, specifically the build portion. Want to discuss a couple things. First being the single source of truth, eliminating risk as the second one, gaining visibility of your projects, and managing submittals and RFIs. And then after all that, we'll have a good old Q&A. So, the single source of truth. I've been hearing this for years, and I think it's aptly named. It's a great time to talk about the fact that project documentation of all types. You kind of see the spider chart in the corner there. Of all types are part of this single source of truth, specifically landing in the documents portion of Build. So Docs is the foundation of everything we do here. All your data, all your documentation. Again, it's not just spreadsheets and PDFs and the typical consumables we see from a project, but it's your models, it's your cost items, your photos, your videos, any of the stuff that you do literally for a project can be stored here in Docs. A little bit about the files, sort of the way that that's organized. A lot of times people have, standard ways of organizing files and folders within project documentation sites within their companies. This is all completely customizable in Docs, so you're able to, replicate that view for all your stakeholders, so they kind of are used to where things go, where they should find things quickly and easily. Ramon, any thoughts on Docs really and sort of the customizing of those folders or any part of that?
Yeah, one of the things I did want to point out was with this being a cloud environment, you can access this anywhere. You don't have to be tied to a desk, which is super important. You can even have a look at models on an iPad when you're in the field, as long as you have internet access. You can do all of that right there. So at any time, you have the most up-to-date materials because they're right here, and everybody's looking at the same thing. And that's why the single source of truth works with the way Docs is set up.
Yeah, completely, and I agree with that, right? I think a lot of times, at least in a paper-based or in a siloed, way of project management, somebody somewhere, a stakeholder, whoever it may be, project participant, right, is privy to some information and they have it in their particular silo, right? So the idea of using ACC and this platform for managing your projects is that everybody is in the know all the time, right? Communication is key. I think, if we miss, small details or anything like that, it could cause, issues and things like that. But again, if we're all operating out of this project platform, everything's tight. It is literally a single source of truth regarding your project. Even down to communication, right? That's a separate thing altogether. But correspondence and communication. If you are in a project environment, you're managing your project, whether it's from a BIM-based perspective or just a plan and spec perspective. If you're in this system, everything you do with this project is wrapped up in there. So if you are talking about a specific item, you can do all of that communication, all of that verification, collaboration, etc., within this platform. So it honestly is a single source of truth. So next for there, so we're going to get into a little bit of the next portion of this, of eliminating risk, right? So The number one thing I think is interesting about a dashboard for this environment is that there's so many modules to build, and we're not going to get through them all today. There's a lot to look at. It's a very powerful solution, but from a dashboarding perspective, the things that are really important to managing a project and making sure things are going according to plan are available in a dashboard view. I think we're all trained in construction to gravitate towards red type or red items, right, as something that we should probably take a quick look at. If you notice, even in your RFIs or your submittals, right, if you look into some of those things, you see some red dates regarding some of those RFIs. Now, I think risk, right, could be a lot of different things. It could be, environmental risks. It could be, risks about a specific activity that's happening on a job site that day. But risk could be wrapped up into RFIs and submittals, right? Especially with lead times with products today, right? You want to make sure that your submittals are out there into the environment, that they're present for the reviewer to take a look at and get those things processed as soon as possible. So if I'm a project manager or a project engineer or an owner or anybody really that's tied to this project, you're going to be able to quickly understand, hey, is there a critical piece of equipment or an item that is lagging behind in the submittal process? And even from this dashboard, you'll notice that under the title area of the project submittals, lower right-hand corner, those are able to be hyperlinked, right? So you can click that and be brought into the issue or the environment quickly right from this page. So you're not searching for stuff, which is great. This is a good sort of dashboard for a project manager, a project executive, any stakeholder, honestly, that is looking into the status of things and to get a quick hit of like what's going on the job that day. Ramona, as far as the risks and things like that in the upper right-hand corner, quality risks and safety risks, do you have any thoughts on kind of, how that is all working?
Yeah, so you guys can see up in the right hand, the safety risk for today. It says low adoption risk. So it's basically saying that there's no information in this particular project to predict any kind of risk or to even tell you what's going on. So that is an indicator in itself, right? If I'm a project manager and I see that, I know that maybe the safety walks aren't happening, or at minimum, they're not being entered into the system. So there's no metrics, no measurements at all. So just at a quick glance, I can see that. Same with quality. You're looking at it and it's saying today risk today low, but you're seeing a very small bar there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's not very much information, so that'll tell you right away either the walks aren't happening or the information's not being put in, so it's not being expressed to the rest of the team.
Right.
Which can throw up a red flag super quick that, hey, people aren't getting the information they need. So these are just different ways of letting you know that where the project is at and whether or not it's being used effectively.
Yeah, and so from that perspective, right, a lot of times safety walks, the example up there is the issues tab, right? So we've created an issue that is a safety glass infraction, right, for any particular person. The type is safety. So as those things start to mass up, right, and we've got a lot of examples, if it's on, we don't want to have a lot of examples of safety issues, but, if we do, and they're categorized as the type of safety, right, you're going to see that risk in the upper right-hand corner of the dashboard start to increase, right? So to Ramona's point, I think it's a great indicator, right? Like, not seeing anything going on. And again, that may or may not be a good thing, but something that, you could poke into here really quick to investigate, right? Are safety walks happening? Are toolbox talks, happening? Is that all going on or not? And when you poke into that sort of overview, you get more of an insight into that. And conversely too with quality, right? So, issue types are quality related as well. So the type would be, a QA/QC issue there, and those would start to amass sort of in that status bar as more of those things are picked up as the job goes on. So, if we're looking to eliminate risk, there's a lot of things that you could think about in this. If you go down simply to weather, right? So if you're in an area of the country where you've got, severe weather or things like that, it sounds simple, but, as a superintendent, if you're gonna, jump into your job and you see, at least a 4-day outlook of what your weather looks like, and you've got a massive snowstorm coming, right? You might have different talks in your sub meetings to say, hey guys, we're going to start clearing the job site of ice and snow, and these are the precautions you should take. It sounds simple, but honestly, like, everything's critical on a project, right? Slip and fall, no good, right? Just job site access, from that perspective. And we're having crazy weather all over the country, right? So I mean, it's a pretty cool thing to get a brief into any of that stuff too. So let's move on. All right, so if we're looking to gain visibility with this particular solution, I think in the left-hand side there, you see the word connected over and over again, right? The teams, any stakeholder on a project that is operating within this platform is connected to all of it, all the project data, all the activities, everything that's going on. The workflows, right? So we have built-in workflows, which we'll get into in the RFIs and the submittals, but connected workflows, people are made aware of what is going on when it's happening. It's not waiting for an email to hit my Outlook inbox to check, it's none of that. You are, just by logging into the system and seeing this sort of this splash page in your project, you're immediately alerted to what's going on. Again, you guys start to cue into some of the red marks under the work status, right? So again, that eye is going to some of those things that are very important. And connected data. I think it's no secret, right, that the building information modeling age is really focusing on that I, the information piece of BIM, and that data is a common thread from sort of seeking bids for a project, all the way through contract award, through construction progress and turnover. It's a single thread that's connected from the start to the end of a job within this portal, which I think is the most important thing. For many reasons. I mean, even understanding, project hiccups, like, hey, how did we get here with a schedule slip? Well, I don't know. Let's go back and analyze, that long piece of thread to see kind of where things came, unbundled, right? But basically, in this sort of splash page, I think for me personally, one of the most interesting things is the activity. So anytime something happens, anytime somebody reviews a document, things were uploaded, issues were assigned to you, you can kind of get a sense of what's going on there in that recent activity. So it's user-based. There's a timestamp with a user, there's a date, and you're just made aware instantly of anything that's going on. So Ramon, any points to highlight for this? I mean, I think some of the work status stuff's important, but any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the work status, if you look right there, it says your assigned work, right, at the very top. And it tells you exactly what you're assigned to. And, if you were to click on those, it would take you into, issues, or right here, there's a meeting item. But if you look even further in your project admin or, office engineer, you can see all these things in another way of what's overdue. And again, you can click on those. And by taking you, say, over into the overdue issues, it actually will filter, and you'll see just the overdue ones, not the whole list of issues. So those filters are already in place. So this is a really handy tool for project admins. But I also wanted to say something about the bridge, Nick. Those are projects that you can either link your project to someone else's project or someone link into yours. And that's the definition of outgoing and incoming. And that is really critical when we're talking about sharing models, especially for them. That they're able to share their models out without all the downloading and uploading. And you always make sure you have the most up-to-date model by using this bridge. So again, that goes back to the connected workflows and connected data. I mean, it's absolutely critical for these guys when they're designing to make sure, right, that they have the most up-to-date models. So I just wanted to touch on Bridge.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a new feature I think that is definitely important to note for sure. And you get to see the traffic, right, incoming and outgoing, depending on what's happening, which is great. Back to that work status thing for a second. So yeah, what you mentioned, Ramon, is critical too. Clicking on, say, the first one there, 14 overdue issues. So when you click that little to the right arrow, right after overdue issues, I think what you said is really important, Ramona, is that you're not going to be brought to a list, potentially an unending list, depending on the type of project you got going on, of all these things that are going on. When you click in that overdue issues, it's setting the filter for you on the sheet. Now, could you navigate to issues in the solution and go to the issues tab and filter down yourself to overdue? Sure. But again, this dashboarding, this collection of information for the user makes it super easy. You kind of get the sense of that too with the quick links, right? Do I want to get to the project sheets? Do I want to look at the document set? Click on that button and you're jumped right to it, which is pretty cool. So visibility, right? Visibility is about being connected. That's all stakeholders across all projects, you know, and everybody along the way, being up to date with information. All right, so managing submittals. I'm quickly going to talk about this dashboard and let Ramona dive in, you know, into it in more detail. But I think again, from a data-rich view perspective, right? You've got a lot going on here. You know, quality control, quality assurance, testing and inspections, right? You could dive into all those different things. But you know, Ramona, please give us some insight into this.
Sure. This dashboard is taken out of the pipe module of ACC. And what pipe does is it essentially scans the specifications that you might receive or be working on yourself as an architect. But this is invaluable for a contractor because it will scan those specs and create your submittals. You know, obviously it's not going to put in the product data, but it creates all the submittals that you should be receiving submittals on. And it takes about, this particular one, I did 2300, the heating and ventilation, and it took it about 15 minutes to scan. And then it took me maybe, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes to 45 minutes to actually go through the list and make sure everything that I actually do want to submit on everything in the list. And what I found, and I fully trust this, what I found is it picked up more than what I would have having gone through the spec section. So when I went through it manually, just this one section, oh gosh, I think it took me 2 days. But again, you know, with this pipe, it took me, you know, about an hour and a half to get through the whole thing. And there were some submittals that it picked up that I never picked up. There were none that I picked up that it didn't pick up, if that makes any sense. So I have full, right now, I have full confidence in this. I'm very happy to see this. So now once you've got your submittals, and you can see here, it broke them down into action submittals, closeout submittals, and off to the right, you've got field control, quality control, and test and inspection. So I think the total was pretty high on this one. It was about 400 or 450 submittals just for the Division 23. It was very, very high.
That is very cool. And that's all through AI. So I mean, there's no manual process, right? It's scanning your document set and sort of bringing that stuff to your attention for you, right? So you quoted a manual process, right, of 2 days versus, you know, just, you know, literally minutes, right? You know, it's automatic process too. So once we get everything loaded in there, Ramona, you know, we are able to see kind of where it's at, right?
Right. So once you get the submittal in there, this right here that we're showing is the review process, and it starts with being obviously submitted. You have an opportunity to prompt your subcontractor or, you know, whoever's responsible for uploading their data sheets into the item, and then you can push it through each process. And every single process has a step back or you know, push to the next step. So there's so much diversity here. You can really customize this quite a bit. And every step you have an opportunity to mark up the submittal as well as download it, put it into Bluebeam, mark it up, and upload it again. So all those in this workflow are available. It's a very strong workflow.
Awesome. Yep. Time and day, right? You know, when this was done and who looked at it specifically, which is fantastic. All right, and then sort of after that process, right? So I go back to what this used to be like manually, right? I think a lot of us can appreciate that. This is a spreadsheet that is updated by someone, you know, perhaps not necessarily in a silo, but, you know, maybe perhaps outside of, you know, other project controls that are happening, right? And if you're doing that, it's a paper-based system or it's an Excel-based system that, again, is disconnected. If we go back a few slides, right, it's about everything being connected together from a data perspective. So in this view, Ramona, you could basically categorize and get a quick shot of everything and the status of it.
That's correct. This is your log. This can easily become your submittal log, and you can filter this by company, by what's late, what do we have upcoming. There's several columns across the top, and those you can decide which columns to show, but every one of those columns is filterable.
Yep. And again, we're using the sort of common, the common green is good and red is bad, right? So you can go right back to that and kind of have your eyes, I think, like I said, over the years, your eyes are trained to sort of go to things that, may need immediate attention, which is good. So, not only visible, but you've got all your detail in here too. And so I see the export piece, Ramona. So we can actually take this, and if we wanted to go back or distribute this outside of, this particular thing, or do something else with it, we could take this out of here, right?
Yes, you could. What I'm seeing is sometimes the owners, they want a paper copy, and you can easily export this and hand this to the owner if they don't want to come in here. But sometimes, and what I'm seeing is that it's mostly a contractual thing that they want this submitted once a month, this log, and
Okay.
it's here, it's done, it's minutes to export. It's not even minutes. I don't even think it's a minute to export.
Right.
You can get an Excel spreadsheet or a PDF.
Yeah, and that's really, I mean, I'm hearing it like I'm hearing it like it's the first time, but it's not that it's the first time that I'm seeing this experience. It's just that I'm remembering what it used to be like, and this was a laborious process. I mean, this took a lot of time, and it often took several stakeholders on a project to get a submittal log accurate and status and updated. Now okay, to have a submittal log to show you what's in, what's out, where it's at, if it's approved, and when it was submitted and who submitted it, right? All of that stuff is in front of you because it's a connected workflow. You're developing the submittal within this system, which is connected to all the documentation that you would need for the submittal process. And as you're pushing it through that process, it's creating the log for you. Again, there's no go up to an FTP site, read everything that's in there and translate all of that to an Excel spreadsheet, and then, get other people to weigh in on that. It's pretty incredible. So also, Ramona, under the package column, right now, could we navigate to supporting documentation within this stuff from here?
Yes, the way the package works is you'll have individual items, and then I don't know if this happened to me so many times in my career where I would send a package that had several items in it. Maybe let's say lights and conduit. Maybe let's say we have everything in one package and we send it off. The whole package gets rejected because it was the wrong light, right? And so now you got to go through and redo all this stuff. The way this works is you make the individual products and then you package them. Well, it gives the reviewer the opportunity to approve some and maybe only reject the one light. So everything else gets approved except for the one piece of the package. So nothing gets held up. And if you were to click into that package, it would show you all the items that were included in that package and where they are. And awesome. The other part of that is each individual item, you can actually reference other things that are in the project, like sheets, or if there's a file sitting in the docs area, you can reference issues. Sometimes submittals are created based on an issue in the project, or because of an RFI, you can reference that too.
Awesome. And just a thing to drill into. So I really like this part of it too. So the very top one, right? It says required and waiting for submission. Mm-hmm. So through the function that you talked about earlier, using pipe to break up these things. So that means it's identified that there's a section that needs a submittal, and the system knows that it needs to be done, and it's telling you that it's waiting for that to happen. Yeah.
Yes, and you've hopefully you've assigned it to the subcontractor, and that's exactly what that's telling you is the subcontractor has not pushed this along.
It's fantastic, and you actually get the date that it's due, and it gives you a little countdown there. 2 days remaining. Better get on the horn, right?
Exactly.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So submittals, vast improvement. I think a lot of us that have been doing this a while can see that that is an incredible improvement over the past. All right, let's move on. So RFI is another, mega process. It's got an RFI log and dispositions and approvals, rejections, suggestions, right? Pretty cool. So these are just a couple of snapshots of how you would create an RFI within the ACC solution, right? So your typical stuff at the top, right? What RFI number is it? What is the title of the RFI? You can create workflows, and maybe quickly, Ramona, want to touch on workflows, and that's from a approval process perspective.
Yeah, so you can actually create different types of workflows. There's the workflow where it's the manager to the reviewer and then back to the manager.
Mm-hmm.
You can also have the manager, reviewer, 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 and then back to the manager. So you can do one or many reviewers.
Awesome.
And you can do those reviewers in sequence or in parallel.
Very cool. Okay, so super smart, right? Depending on how the project is, sometimes in a large project, you have several entities that need to sign off. So I thought that was important. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Ball in court, right? You can specifically name a member that this is, their ball in court, and that's part of the statusing that you'll see here in a bit. Co-reviewers, which is great. So it's in parallel. You can have other people weigh in on the thing. Due dates, locations, location details, right? Locations also just should be known. You can set up locations within your project. So you would drop down that menu and actually pick a specific location, room 101 or whatever it may be. I think the fantastic thing that was replicated in here, and again, if anybody's ever written an RFI, these are the standard things that you're going to want to see in your RFI template, right? But the question, right, super important. What are we asking about? The thing I love the most, because I know it to be true, is if you supply the second piece there, which is the suggested answer to your reviewer, a lot of times you get a quick response, from that perspective. So I think that's a great addition to it. Reference materials, right? I think it's cool that it actually says add references to other objects or project files, right? So it's not just this form. You can actually, again, in that long thread of a project, right, from start to finish, you can attach this to other pieces of information and data within that project. The other two things that are super important in an RFI, schedule impact and cost impact, right? You get to notate those things as well. The discipline, right? So that's, where is this coming from within the project? And you get IDs, and the watchers piece I think is cool too. So watchers, Ramona, that is individual people that need to be sort of in the loop on this, roles, right? So a lot of things in the ACC solution are role-based or persona-based by permission. So subcontractor, engineer, architect, owner, etc. Or you can have the entire company watch it again. So you could pick, your HVAC company, your plumbing, right, or the project as a whole. So again, it's making sure information is passed, in a very neat and tidy way, and everybody is in the know of what's going on. So after you've filled that out, right, again, we're back to sort of this this approval process, right? So we're going down the line of, it was submitted on August 15th, it was reviewed on the 29th, and it was due on the 31st, right? So hey, we beat the timeline in this example here. It's already answered and approved, so that's great. The close and distribute button, right? Well, let's go back. So return to reviewer, right? So awesome, thank you, it was approved. However, I need clarification, or whatever the case may be, to what Ramona was talking about in submittals. You can actually back up a step just to make sure you have all the information you need and have the clarity. Close and distribute, right? So when you hit that button, you get this other dialog box. The ball in court that you've identified in the RFI form is present. The watchers, right, of who is needing to know about this, and then essentially the comment, just quickly, hey, this was approved. You'll be able to, so all the project members will be able to review and view the RFI. So that's the other part too. Within that overarching RFI area, which we'll show you in a second, you have the ability to look at that and see it sort of in a view such as this, right? So this is present in your dashboarding. This is present in sort of in your reporting. And again, it's not an RFI log that's, sort of sitting out somewhere in Excel. It's all tied together. I think the important thing here too is references, right? So Ramona, when you drive into references here, how far do those bounds go in terms of what we can reference for an RFI?
RFIs are very powerful. You can reference anything in the project at all, even other RFIs. So
Awesome.
Anything that's been put in here, anything at all.
Love that. So yeah, so if a question or an RFI was asked, you can actually reference the answer or whatever it was in the RFI to a new one. So I think that's pretty powerful as well. And again, your typical stuff, right? You could filter this stuff down to open or closed, sort of where it is answered, if it's in review, who created it, timestamp, date, disposition, all the key stuff that you need to know. So want to keep this, wasn't going to be a pick and click, but I think it's important to sort of show everybody the power of managing a project in Autodesk Construction Cloud. We do have some Q&A time. We have a couple in here. I think I will, let's see. So, this is a good one actually. So is ACC going to replace BIM 360 and PlanGrid? I have my speculations. Ramona, you want to take a comment?
Yes, it is. I know for a fact you can't get the PlanGrid licenses anymore.
Okay.
They're still supporting BIM 360, but this platform is actually the next stage of it. So I can't imagine keeping that around.
Yeah, so that's Autodesk Construction Cloud, the unified platform, as they call it, right?
Right.
So, got a second question here. So is ACC Docs, so Autodesk Construction Cloud Docs, again, we talked about that earlier as being the foundation of everything that happens in the platform. Is it able to store and share Revit files? Yeah, absolutely, right? So sort of in that first image, it's anything that is pertinent to your project. That's Revit files, that's Tekla files, that's anybody that's contributing to the project, it can store all of that stuff. There's actually a follow-on question to that, which is pretty interesting, which is how are models able to be viewed with ACC? So it says, do I need a license of the authoring software, i.e. Revit? Okay, so I'll just say quickly, in short, you don't need the authoring software in this particular platform. So when you load a Revit file into Docs, you can actually click on that file and gain a preview. And Ramona, do you want to talk about sort of the manipulation and all the things you can do when you're sort of in that view without having Revit software?
Yeah, sure. So when you're in the view, there are markups that you can do on the 2D portion of Revit views. You can add issues to both 2D and 3D that can be used for RFIs and other things. Let's see, they're coming up with assets and things like that. Mm-hmm. Some of the actual manipulation of the models, which is really nice, is you can turn things on and off, like walls or structure, things like that. You can actually physically turn them off to see something better.
And that's right in the solution, right in the viewer. You don't need any. Actually, that's the thing too. That's pretty cool. Is the controls are very intuitive. You don't need to have prior Revit experience, right, to sort of get what you want at any user level, any stakeholder level. Get what you want out of the power of an image, right, which is a model of your building. You can do all that sort of in that viewer, which is super powerful. So, all right, cool. Let's see, we have another question here too, which I think is awesome. We have, what data is required for the external ID in the RFI creation?
Oh, okay, I can take that one, Nick. The external ID is, let's say you're the GC and maybe for the GC, it's RFI, let's hope 50, but for the trade itself, it's RFI 2. So that's what that means. That's an opportunity for you to put their number onto the RFI and be able to track it that way.
Got it. Yep, and that's oftentimes present, right? Subcontractors RFI log, right, is not going to be inclusive of the entire job, but really the ones that they're asking, right? So you can use that naming creation there. All right, awesome. Not seeing any other questions at the moment.
Yeah, it was lots of good questions. Since we're done with the Q&A, I am going to bring up a quick poll on the screen. If you guys have any more questions or would like one of our team members to contact you, we could do a one-on-one demo, anything like that, please answer yes, and we'll reach out shortly. So I'm going to leave this up just for a minute. Alrighty, guys, thank you so much for your response. Let's close the poll. So you may also visit our website at microdesk.com to learn more about the products and services we offer. That will wrap up our webinar today. So big thank you to Nick and Ramona, and thank you all for taking the time out of your day to join us.